Hey everybody, it's Reseller Revenue, and today we're going to go over what sold. So I think I sold $8.2 thousand from, it would be September, well, from our last call together. So September 29th through October 5th, which is 7 full days. Granted, I had a few big sales that really bumped that up, but it still happened. So want to talk about that. Want to talk about how our group discussed reselling wise this week and how it might help you out, and then the top 10 sales I had, which are all jewelry, of course. Not that I don't sell other things once in a while, but I do sell all jewelry. For those of you that don't know me, I sell, I'm hopefully going to be on track for 250,000 gross sales this year, mostly in the vintage jewelry category. And I lead the Reseller Revenue group on Patreon. And we just talk about all things reselling. And I hope this call kind of does lean towards more of jewelry. So if you have any jewelry questions, please drop them in the link below. I love seeing new jewelry sellers develop, and I also love to see jewelry sellers out there that are doing better than me so I can see what they're doing and admire their work. And my store on eBay, because I get asked it all the time, is Plush and Much, so feel free to check it out. I don't really mind, and make sure we check out Resell Revenue on all the different social apps. So I did $1.2 thousand this week, and I had the big sales, but I get asked all the time, what's the secret? You know what the secret is? There isn't one. I show a lot of consistency and discipline. Those would be the key words I would describe the success on eBay. So discipline, consistency, and the fact that I keep doing it even when I don't want to. So there's lots of days where I'm like, I don't want to list. I'm tired. I want to sleep in. I feel like if I take one more picture, I'm, gonna flip out. Or if I get one more customer service question that could have been answered by just reading the description or the measurements, and that's something that continues to, the more things you sell, the more things you list, the more customer service you have. It's part of the deal. So it all kind of compounds over time. And now we're taking how many sets of pictures a day, and we're listing that many a day, and we have that many to ship, and we have that many customer service questions, and it's just a big snowball that just keeps going 7 days a week. And I feel super burnout sometimes, and I have to kind of just still get my work done, but then just like step away. So I always get my key work done. So I always get my listings and usually my pictures done because I try to stay a week ahead on that. But I do try to do some every day. And once I get the stuff I have to do in the shipping done, which my husband mostly helps me with, and my son pulls the inventory for me to pay for his car insurance, is that I did then just step away. Like maybe I don't sort jewelry that day. Maybe I don't do a lot of the book work, or I just don't do the non-essentials that day. Just try to give myself a breather in a totally different direction, because I absolutely feel the grind. And if I had this secret recipe for everybody to make this super easy, and if you have it, I'd love to hear it. Drop it below, because if there is a much easier, much faster way to make as much money or more on eBay, which there is, I'm absolutely certain there is. I love to hear other people's ways they do things. I had somebody comment this week that, hey, I don't always agree with you, but I kind of respect your game. Well, good. Like, it would be really boring if everybody agreed with me, right? I mean, we're all individuals. We're all running individual businesses. We're all doing individual things. We are absolutely should not be always agreeing, right? And I don't need to agree with people to respect them and to enjoy them. I also am able to be wrong, right? So sometimes it's the fact that sometimes I'm going to be wrong because I'm human. So we don't always have to agree on everything to appreciate each other's company and to appreciate each other's views. So I'm totally one of those people that as long as you have a basis for what you believe in, or can say how or why you feel a certain way, you do you. Like we definitely can't all be set in the same mold, or that would just be wrong. So um working when you don't feel like working, I think, is a big thing on eBay. So sometimes we just got to push through it and do it anyway. And that's also called being an adult, because a lot of people that go to work every day and punch a clock, they don't always want to go either. So think about that. Think about, would you rather go punch a clock? Would you rather be away from home? Is there a career path that you'd rather be in that makes the same amount of money? And we just have to remember that we're not special. We don't get special privileges for feeling burnout just because we chose to be self-employed, but we are still allowed to feel that way. So just think you probably feel we could experience burnout in anything that we chose to do in life. So reselling isn't different. Let me share my screen and we're going to go over the weekend review. As always, I'm sharing my dashboard. I share my dashboard when things are good. I share it when it's bad. And it's one of those things that it just is what it is at the end of the week. And I share it and I'm transparent and I don't mind questions. So if you have any questions, please ask. Um, I'm not perfect by any means, but I'll do the best I can. So here's the $8,202.17 total gross sales. And you can see here from my dashboard, this is from September 29th to October 5th, all on eBay. And that leaves me the net, as you know, hovering around that half point at 43.1138. And when you have a $1,500 sale, I can tell you for certain that those fees look pretty scary. So I had one of those and it was a lot, right? I sold 229 items, but my net and gross sales were both up at about almost 20%. So I will take it even if it was from a one-off big sale. So I will happy to have it. You guys know I'm always shooting around that 25% for repeat buyers. Boy, I really missed the mark this week. I had 7.7 was repeat buyers. So a lot of people tell me you only have the sales you have because of your eBay following. That is just not true because here's a big week and I had 92.3% were new buyers, one-time buyers. It's not true. I think it helps. I think every bit helps. However, my repeat buyers were only 7.7%. So you don't need to see my categories because they're all jewelry categories. You can see my promoted sales, right? So I believe in promoted listings. You guys know I do. 90.8% of my sales were sold promoted listings. 9.2% were organic. You know, I'm paying to play and we just got to make sure we can afford the promotions that we're running. We can afford the sales that we're doing because if you can't afford it, it just doesn't matter, right? So that's why we have to have our numbers and why it's so important to know our numbers. So we'll do my top 10 sales of the week. Not super impressive. Most of them are not. This is a Gruen very thin watch. I pick these up even if they're not working. I just say they're not working. I don't spend a bunch of time trying to make them work. You guys know my son likes to tinker with old watches, but this is, not really worth asking him to mess with it. If you have a big old box of old watches somewhere, let me know. He might be interested in them. He, for being 18, it's funny that he's so passionate about his watches. So that sold. I was happy to have it gone. Obviously not in great condition, but get them up there anyway. This was a unique brooch. Again, not a huge sale by any means. It wasn't great shape. It was all metal, like a pressed metal, but it was kind of unique. And I do think it was old and it was had some cool coloring to it. So sold that. Watch chains, I could just sell watch chains over and over and over, and I do when I can get them. This one wasn't anything too particularly exciting, but it sold the same day I listed it. Took an offer. Why? Because I only had a couple bucks into it, so had to make that money. This one was listed September 14th. Some Camrose and Cross earrings. It sold on my 10% off sale, which is just fine, and hopefully somebody really enjoys those. Do notice that Camrose and Cross is lots of times marked with a JBK, which is Jacqueline Kennedy. And so the marking sometimes confuses people because it's by Camrose and Cross. This one is a double-sided butterfly wing art pendant. If they are double-sided, they do seem to bring more money. Plus, I think these were kind of two totally different and unique settings and colors for butterfly arts. I think that's why I did so good. It sold on my 10% off sale. I always like getting those anyway, just because they're really neat. These, the watch is not a good watch, really. So I'm selling it for the watch tips, which were sterling silver, and they were pretty nice and heavy, and I think somebody will be happy with them. Watch tips is something that that can get overlooked and thrown in a lot really easy, and you can pick them up sometimes, and they do sell pretty good if they're good quality. This here also was an Indian head sterling silver watch. It was kind of unique. I got it in what was similar to like a junk jewelry lot on eBay. I didn't buy it for this piece, but I was happy with this piece. So there's the back. And again, not super impressive sales, guys. I sold a lot of bread and butter type items this week, but bread and butter pays the bills. So I'm happy. I just share my top 10, whatever they are, even if they're not interesting. So here's a gold filled etched photo locket. It had our instant relative in there. It was really pretty nice. It was in really nice condition too. I picked that up at the flea market that I just gone to that I showed you in the last video. If you haven't checked out my other what sold videos, please check them out. Then usually I have a business video sprinkled in throughout the week. I've been doing an eBay refresher course. So I've been adding to that every week. Kind of gives you the rundown of the basics of eBay and kind of a refresher for people that are already selling on eBay. This was a phenomenal watch. I bought it in a lot on eBay. I saw it sitting in this lot that I bought for $200 and I thought I can make all my money back just on this one watch. So I did. It was beautiful. Sometimes, excuse me, sometimes people see these gold-filled watches and they think, well, I can get, so much money out of them because they have gold content and it's really heavy, which is true. Sometimes you can. However, the actual gold content in most of these watches is not a lot. Some of them are, but a lot of them are not. So there's the inside of the case and there's the watch movement. That was a really nice, and it worked, which was also awesome. This was my big sale of the week. We've seen this before, but it got sent back twice because of bad address. But I sold it again, so we're gonna fingers crossed that everything goes good this time. I didn't check to see if I have feedback on it yet, but we're gonna hope she's really happy with it. It was a very nice piece, very well made. They call them Zuni Tunes, and it is signed by an artist. I sold the Zuni Tunes pendant for I think it was $600 a couple weeks ago to the artist's son, which was kind of neat. And there's the artist right there. And it was just a cool piece. And I bought a whole lot of sterling for I think it was $800. And I didn't really know this artist, but it looked really well quality. And I was paying basically a little over melt price for it. So I thought, well, I really can't go wrong. And just between the pendant and the bracelet, I am making the gross amount on it was almost $2,500 or around $2,500. So to my $2,300, sorry, math's not my thing. And so I took a good chance and I think it's paid off well. Plus I had a whole bunch of other great sterling pieces that were in that lot too. So I just want to tell everybody, like, keep it up. I know I say it every week. If you're new, enjoy the process of being new and learning, right? We can't go from not knowing jewelry at all to like, hey, I want to make $1,000 a day in sales. It takes a process, and that doesn't mean you're slow. It doesn't mean you're not doing it right. It means you're doing it exactly right. I like touching, feeling, seeing, and then comping a bunch of things for my learning process. I think that was super valuable to me to just go through lots of jewelry and comp it and see where is this a good piece? Is it not a good piece? How does it feel? What does it look like? And then you'll start seeing similarities between jewelry items like, oh, like this clasp seems to show up a lot on the higher end items. This chain seems to show up on a lot of the higher end necklaces. This brand seems to be good every time I look it up. Like, why? And then delve into it, harder on the eBay sold. So I feel like that's a really great way to learn jewelry for reselling, is just to get some, go through it, go to antique malls, touch the item, look at the item. You'll start just seeing things that come up over and over and over, and it'll kind of lead you down different paths of research. And as you get further up, well, then we have to research less because you'll know more. There's just a continuous learning process. I learn every day something about jewelry that I didn't know, whether it's a price or a brand, or maybe I was doing something wrong, or how to test something. Like, I learn every day. So it's just a continual process. Never feel behind because you're probably exactly where you're supposed to be. As long as we are always moving forward and making that forward leap or that forward movement in our own business, then you are winning. Do not compare yourself to anyone else. So if you've ever only, if your highest price sold item was $15 and now you sold one for 20, you are winning. Just stick with it and you will find the natural progression as you research and you learn more and you do more, is that will keep going up, whether it's the price per item, the number of items sold, the number of items listed, your ASP, all of those things will naturally keep going up. So just follow it and enjoy the ride, because there's so much good. And when you're in that really hungry educational phase, and it's the key is to stay in that phase, because I need to keep moving myself forward also. And it's totally possible. I totally can just keep getting better and better. But do not compare yourself to somebody in a totally different position. The only person you should be comparing yourself is to you. And as long as that's going well, then you're winning. So I appreciate you guys checking in for another week of what's sold and how I'm doing. If you have any questions at all, please drop them in the chat. I always appreciate hearing from you. And check out Resale Revenue on Patreon.